Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video, and this is my first video back since my wife had our son, who is named Noah, and he is pretty cool. He's about 3 feet over there. I know I don't have the camera on for this, but we're all kind of recovering and relaxing, and my office is a mess, so you will probably meet him at some point, but he is snoozing right now, and this is also a test to see if he can sleep through me recording a video or not, which is more than Evie usually does. So, and I think he'll be chewing on fewer bottles for the time being. I did want to come back with a Destiny video, something I kind of noticed over the weekend that got posted. Obviously, I missed a good amount of things, but this was something I found interesting that was taken out of GDC, where some Destiny folks gave a talk about kind of maintaining a live service game and shared some kind of interesting data about that. I did specifically put Twitter in dark mode for this video, so I would not get yelled at, because everyone is always yelling at me about light mode. So hopefully you appreciate that. This was just I didn't see the full presentation. This might be online somewhere, but this is Ben Hansen. I think he used to be ex Game Informer, yeah. And he shared a few screenshots of the presentation, and I just wanted to kind of go through what the data revealed about Destiny as a whole, and Witch Queen, and future content, and things like that. Is it some interesting information and some pretty cool data, even if some of it is redacted, and there's a lot of redacted stuff even between just these three sides. So this first image is Destiny 2 weekly active users compared to Destiny 1 weekly active users. And this is the chart that Bungie said was terrifying, quote, after the launch of the game, because they've noticed a much steeper drop-off of players in Destiny 2 compared to Destiny 1. And as you recall from that time, like, Destiny 1 was, had some issues with sorry, I heard Noah chirping. He's still snoozing. Okay. Destiny 1 obviously had a lot of launch issues, but it did maintain kind of a player base who was curious about the whole concept of a live service-ish type game when Bolt of Glass came out. Destiny 2, meanwhile, dropped off really steeply after the vanilla campaign, where the vanilla campaign was received a lot better, I think, but like right after that, then we got into like, what's the end game? This isn't great. Double primary loadouts and things like that, and interest really kind of dropped off a cliff. And that was between this is the era where they were releasing first Curse of Osiris, which was extremely bad, and then Warmind, which was better, but this was sort of a real wake-up call to Bungie. I also think this is probably what convinced them to or let them convince Activision to switch to the seasonal model, because they put in all that work for these like kind of chunkier DLCs with Osiris and Warmind. Each of those gave me planets and things, and yet player drop off just was so massive anyway that it was both unsustainable work and not turning out so great anyway. So I think what the ultimate result was here, I would be curious to see this graph continually going, but you can track on something like Steam charts, and we know that Destiny's player base has been really consistent over the last 4 years, 7 years, however you want to measure it. I guess we're in year 5 now for Destiny 2, at least a lot more so compared to other games. So they did figure it out eventually, but I find this funny that they shared this graph of this like terrifying drop here. And this is precisely the time when I was not really playing anymore either. I think if you go to like one of those Destiny 2 heat map sites that shows you like which days you played, like pretty much before and after Curse of Osiris, it's like blank, because like there wasn't much to do in vanilla D2 after the campaign, really, for the most part, and then there was not a whole lot to do right before and right after Curse of Osiris. Curse of Osiris was like a really just poor series of missions that you were done with in 2 hours or whatever it took, and that did not bode well. Thankfully, things got changed. So that's the first graphic, not even the one I find the most interesting. So here we're going with a kind of actual expectations versus reality in terms of Witch Queen performance. At least I believe this is Witch Queen performance. I don't know what else it would be unless they were talking about an old expansion, but I don't think they are. So there are some. This is kind of like what they track as some of their most important metrics, and they have redacted their specific numbers, so their competitors can't be like, oh well, they have this many new players. Like that's all private information that they, and I guess now Sony will have access to, but they're not like a public company sharing these numbers. Vocal sentiment is, I assume that's some sort of like social media chatter thing. This did not have a forecast because I think this is a new metric they came up with, so we don't have any data there. So I don't know when this is from, but like week over week, there was a 17% increase in chatter in whatever capacity. And then in terms of average daily active users, they're up 2% here, 12% increase in new players, and then a 9% increase in average weekly return rate, so people coming back to play. I don't know what average weekly win back is, like maybe, I don't know, something to do with lapsed players or something, but that metric actually fell. So, average DAU, if this is like right after the launch of the Witch Queen, I would kind of hope it would be larger than that. But a 12% surge in new players is definitely pretty solid. 9% in returning players is good too. Gross revenue, here we go. So, okay, sorry, no, I was reading this wrong. This is percent difference versus the forecast. So we don't actually know what their hard numbers are. Sorry. So this is a 2% increase over the predicted average increase. So this is actually what this is saying overall is that this expansion outperformed their expectations in all categories except whatever winback is. That is also true for revenue in a lot of areas. Gross revenue outperformed by 20%. Expansion revenue, so that's just sales of the Witch Queen, outperformed by a full 24%. So I assume this kind of just directly translates into sales. So the Witch Queen, appears to be 25% more, selling more than they anticipated. We don't know the hard units here, but there was a lot of buzz around this. I just wrote an article about how the Witch Queen is technically, it is the best reviewed Destiny release ever, even compared to base games and all the other expansions, even with a limited amount of reviews in. And then it's also one of, besides Elden Ring, it's like the highest reviewed PS5 game of the year, which is kind of funny. Again, with fewer reviews, but still. One thing that is down is microtransaction revenue. This is interesting because, when you buy an expansion, there's not a whole lot that you necessarily feel really compelled to buy. I do wonder if this includes like the season pass. I kind of assume it would. The thing I always buy, for sure, is the kind of cosmetic armor sets that launch in Eververse with every season, but I think the longer time goes on, the less I have been spending on things like that. It's just, I have so much stuff at this point that like when they come out with, like, unless they're coming out with an ornament or something for an item that I really, really just use all the time, like obviously I had to get like the Le Monarch ornament because they didn't have an ornament for years and years and years. But for the most part, like something has to be kind of utterly astonishing for me to get it. And I haven't, for ships and sparrows and things, like there's just nothing that really jumps out at me where it's like, yeah, sure, that's worth $8 when I have, 200 other ships and sparrows that are also cool that I could use already. So I do wonder if they're kind of struggling a little bit to figure out monetization. It does not seem that maybe transmog, turning transmog into a microtransaction, has done much to boost their microtransaction revenue. And then we see the similar metric in ARPDAU. And it's interesting. So we may see some kind of changes coming to microtransaction strategies and what they sell and how they sell it, how they price it, if this is not really kind of meeting their expectations. But it's very good news, obviously, that Witch Queen's revenue just dramatically outpaced their expectations like that. Get to the final side here. This is when they were talking about kind of their workload and how they kind of balance working on a live game. These are not the releases of the games, like the release dates. This is when these things were being worked on kind of in the back end. And that can result in some of these things I'm a little confused about because like they don't all make sense. Like I don't know why Season of Opulence, I'm a little unclear why Season of Opulence is overlapping with Season of the Worthy and the Hunt. But the point is like they stagger a lot of the stuff where you will see multiple things being, it's not just like they cut off and they're like, okay, it's time to start on Season of the whatever next time. Like there are anywhere from 3 to 4 seasons or big events like Bungie's 30th in development at any given time, and then usually 2 or more expansions or really large releases working at the same time. The overlap there isn't huge. Like you can see the overlap here between Beyond Light and the Witch Queen is not big. The overlap between Witch Queen and Lightfall is very big. And this is kind of trails off, so we don't know, obviously, when this ends or when work on Lightfall ends. We don't even have a firm date on that, even if we're assuming it's a year away. And then this is all of the other seasonal content that is still not coming. So this is, if you assume there's 3 seasons, or well, there's 4 seasons a year, this is 2 more years of seasons right here. This is interesting. This is what I'm finding really interesting here, is maybe it was just like to fit on the page or whatever, but this is a big expansion coming that is pretty much almost simultaneously being developed alongside the final shape. We know that Destiny 2 is not ending Destiny 2 expansions after the final shape. That's just the end of the Light and Dark saga. But I don't think this is Destiny 3. They very much made it clear that they're not doing that for at least probably the lifespan of this console generation. But I really do wonder what this is and why it would be. Because you see this, like, development on the Witch Queen started pretty close to the end of development on Beyond Light. This is way different than that. And, like, again, maybe this is just like a PowerPoint problem where they had to cut things off here. But, like, that to me struck me as pretty interesting, that this big whatever this is being developed simultaneously alongside the final shape. I mean, it's not impossible to think maybe it could be like the bare bones of something like a Destiny 3. A really, really large kind of overall expansion or re-envisioning of the game, because I do think that has to come someday. I mean, the game is just going to get sort of aged out of existence if it sticks on, the Destiny 2, everything with Destiny 2 as its base forever. But, I mean, my guess is that this is probably the expansion after the final shape, and it's just they're starting work on it pretty early here. So just really interesting look on how ridiculous live service development is, and how you have like 4 to 6 things stacked on top of each other being developed all at the same time. It's a far cry from just like X game needs to develop Y DLC, and like that's kind of all they're doing at a given time. Whereas Destiny has, done this on the production side to be kind of a science at this point, which is why they're able to hit a lot of these metrics. And the only thing that really delayed stuff was COVID with Witch Queen. And obviously that still worked out really well. And the expansion was developed, I think, entirely during the pandemic when they were working from home. And it's their best one. So imagine what could happen when they're not restricted to pandemic era rules and things like that. So yeah, I just found all this very interesting. It's no like breaking news or anything, but just a pretty curious look inside like things like revenue and scheduling and things like that. So anyway, I am going to figure out if anything. I don't think anything's happening at Reset tomorrow, except what is Iron Banner over? I don't even know what day it is anymore. But we'll find something else to do. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming back, and I will talk to you later.